YouTube Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made a card with the Lovely and Sweet stamp set bundle from Stampin' Up's upcoming, and it's almost here, January to April 2024 mini catalog. And it's a beautiful little bundle, and oh goodness, I guess I'm all sorts of crazy crooked here. So trying to get somewhat straightened out and, on screen would be a good thing. So, hey, Quinn, thanks for hopping in. Glad you're here, as well as Sally. Glad to see you today. And Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you for letting me take last week off. It was kind of nice and spent some time with family and just kind of hung out. And yeah, it was nice. So hopefully you all had a good holiday as well and a Happy New Year and didn't get any trouble over New Year's Eve. We definitely didn't hear. I was asleep before the, fireworks went off. So I see Marilyn and Carol and Melanie and that's two Carols, and then Deborah and Karen and Pam and Trey. Thanks everybody for hopping in. So glad y'all are joining. And again, Happy New Year. I hope that you had a wonderful little holiday week. So, birthday's tomorrow. Happy birthday to Melanie, a little early. So, all right. Hey, Patricia, thanks for joining. So this is a card we're going to make today. It's actually really simple, and hopefully you like it. So so it's real shiny and gold, and it probably doesn't show up very well on the video, but it'll show up well, hopefully, in the photos tomorrow on my blog. So so feel free to hop over there, stampwithamyk.com, and I'll share all the details, all the cardstock cuts, and all that good stuff tomorrow, so you'll be able to look at everything again. So hey, Lisa and Carol and Gail and Gina Marie, glad everybody's here. So cool. All right, so this is the stamp set. Again, it's called Lovely and Sweet. And hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in. So it's lovely and sweet. So it's a pretty little stamp set, got some pretty flowers in it. And what did I figure out? These are almonds, actually. And I'm like, I don't know how I didn't know that or didn't notice that there were almonds on here, but I looked up what this word means, and it's like the almond tree. I'm like, oh, okay, hello. Yeah, so anyhow, and there's vanilla, and then these are cocoa beans and the little cocoa pods. So it's a pretty little stamp set, got some nice sentiments in it, and love the dies that coordinate with it. They're obviously the larger open dies will cut out your stamped images, and then this one will cut out some of the sentiments. This one creates a little tab, and then there's some just accessory pieces, little florals and a little greenery, and we're going to use some of these today, but obviously not all the dies on it. So, all right. Oh, I like the arch, but didn't know what to do with it. Yeah, it's a fun, like I said, I don't know. I kind of stole a little bit. There was a sketch that I started with and then got sidetracked, and I didn't end up having it look like the sketch at all by the time I got done. But that's where the little arch idea came from, was from the sketch. So, hey, Drew and Roberta, thanks for hopping in. All right, so also used on here, the Meandering Meadows dies, and that die cut that I used, the arch one, that we were just chatting about, is this one. And it's actually pretty cool because you can cut either a frame with it or you can cut the center out of it. So I use the centerpiece out of it. But when you cut this, actually your background paper then is left with a frame that's also got the little dash marks on it. So you can use it either way, however you like to. But it's a really good die set. There's a coordinating stamp set that goes with it called Garden Meadows. There's a Meandering Meadows Suite. It's all in the online exclusives. So make sure you're taking a look at those anytime you go and put in your order. To check out what's new, but this is one of the online exclusive items, meaning that it's not tied to any catalog. It'll be around for as long as it's around. So if you like it, go get it. All right. And then the last thing that I used is these are the Wonderful Thoughts dies. And this is the die that I used. This actually coordinates with a sentiment set that's in the big catalog, the annual catalog. But I didn't use any of the sentiments from the annual catalog. I used the one from the Lovely and Sweet set, and it fit perfectly inside this die cut. So that's the one that I've used. All right. Speaking of the online exclusives, don't forget, like I said, to go check those out. They're in the online store. If you go in and click on the menu button, which is on the upper left when I look at it, and then find the online exclusives. There's a whole tab full of them, and it's several pages of things. There are holiday things in there. There are spring things in there. There are just general things in there. So go take a look anytime you're out there in the online store. These are some of the more recent ones. And like I said, this is the Meandering Meadows Suite collection. And the dies that I use are right there. And then, yeah, there's some fluffy little friends. So it's a cute, definitely good to go check that out. The kits collection is also in there. So go take a peek. All right. Hey, Amanda, thanks for hopping in. And Barbara and Deborah, I totally probably missed seeing you guys hop in as well. don't know what happened to the, there we go. I'm like, where did my last chance go? Last chance products sale this is ending actually tomorrow, which is the 3rd of January, or today if you're watching it tomorrow, whatever, January 3rd, the last chance products sale is ending. So make sure that you're getting anything that you need out of the current mini catalog, which is the September to December 2023 mini catalog. Loads of holiday items out there. Some of the items are selling out, so make sure you're going and getting them there while supplies last. And then there's a carryover list as well, but just know that any of the bundles that are on the carryover list, the individual items will be around, but the bundle pricing goes away. So now is a great time to pick up those last bundles that you were wanting that you didn't get yet. So let me know if you have questions about that. All the details are on my blog, which is Stamp with Amy K, and you can see that, stampwithamyk.com. So you can see it today, tomorrow, whenever you take a look at the blog. So, hey, Robin, thanks for hopping in. All right, so we're going to get started. I have a petal pink card base. My original base is the 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2 across the top. And that is my preferred card base for when I make cards, but I know not everybody loves those, so I try to remember to make them differently when I can with the standard card base. So this is your standard card base. It is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4 right down the middle. So it's a half piece of just basic cardstock. And then I've got a piece of the Nature's Sweetness Designer Series paper. It's a specialty pack from the upcoming mini catalog. It'll be available starting on the 4th of January, which is, gosh, only 2 days away. I can't even believe it. Celebration starts then too, so make sure you're getting your celebration items picked out with all your goodies that you're going to be ordering. So this is actually the flip side of the paper, and it's got, as you can see, the images kind of coordinate with the stamp set, the Lovely and Sweet stamp set. But we're going to use the shiny foil side of it today when we're putting it together. So the piece of Designer Series paper I cut to about 3 7/8 by about 5 1/8, and we are adhering it to, if I don't get too crazy with the glue that is, to a piece of basic white cardstock that measures about 4 1/4 by, measures 4 by 5 1/4. That's what I was trying to say. So I thought the dies and stamp set were no longer available, but it's only the sweet that's not available. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Karen. So, but yeah. I don't know if is it the online exclusives that you're talking about. Yeah, it could be because the little birds and dragonflies are actually temporarily sold out. They will be coming back, so don't panic about that. But yeah, they are out of stock and they'll be restocking. I don't know. I think February sometime. So. Then I've got a piece of white vellum because I was wanting to kind of tone down the gold a little bit. Initially, I had just laid the die cut pieces on top of the gold, and it was a little too much. So I wanted a little something to kind of mellow it out a little bit. So I took a piece of the white vellum, which is from the annual catalog, and this piece measures about 3 3/4 by about 5, and we're just going to put a little bit of Stampin' Seal on here. There we go, got to get it rolling here. And I'm just going to make sure that I keep that towards the center because I want to make sure that it's going to be covered up. So hopefully you can see I stuck it kind of towards the center. I want to make sure that it's going to be covered up by my focal panel when I put everything together. So I just want to make sure I don't have adhesive because you can see it through the vellum and I don't love the way that looks. So, so there we go. I'm going to stick that down really well here with the Stampin' Seal. But again, nobody's going to be able to see the yucky part once I layer everything on the top of it. So. Hey, Mary and Patricia, thanks for hopping in today. Next up, I've got a piece of basic white cardstock that I had cut with that Garden Meadows die, which again, this is one of the online exclusives. So you will find that out in the Stampin' Up! Online store. And we're just going to take some Stampin' Seal and we're going to adhere that right over the top of that vellum panel that I've got on here. And just going to roughly center it, top to bottom and side to side on my vellum panel. And like I said, you got all the yucky adhesive all covered up, so you're all good. So, all right. Then I'm going to grab a piece. This is from the Nature's Sweetness Designer Series paper. Again, it's that specialty foil paper. And what I discovered, which is really awesome about this, is the dies from the Lovely and Sweet stamp set actually coordinate with the images in this paper. So that's always a big yay anytime I see that. So this one matches, I should probably pick one that you're actually gonna be able to see on screen. This one matches, and the vanilla one does as well, if I can get it on here the right way around. So you can actually die cut a bunch of the images from this paper with the dies. And I always love it when Stampin' Up! Does that. It makes it so much easier. If you watch my videos, you know that fussy cutting is just not my thing. I'm not good at it. I make a mess. I chop things up that I shouldn't. So I always love it when I have a die that does all the work for me. So the only thing that I have to do now is I have to get to a piece of the paper that I want to die cut here. And by the way, you see all these little edge pieces like this, they're little greenery pieces and whatever. You can use the dies on those and then use them like on the insides of your cards or on the edges of your cards or whatever, because they've got a perfectly square edge on them. And it's nice that you can die cut them and use them however you want. All right, so I'm going to just take my paper snips and I'm going to start hacking here. I'm going to try to be a little careful as I go around the vanilla because I know, and the cocoa as well, because I know that I can die cut those in the future. This is about the extent of my fussy cutting skills. So they are not very good, like I said. There we go. Just chop that out. And then set that paper aside, and then I'm going to grab my dies again, and I'm just going to lay this die right over the top. Maybe. There we go. And run it through my die cutting machine, and it's going to cut this out all for me. So all the hard work is done. So hang on 1 second. I'll be off screen. So it is really pretty paper, Patricia. It's such a nice pack. All right. Get this lined up. All right, and there's what I'm left with after I've done the die cutting on it. And then I throw that little chunk away here. And then I'm going to grab my Stampin' Blends markers, and I'm going to amaze you with the fantastic coloring job that I'm going to be doing on this paper. Don't laugh too hard when you see it, as usual. Vanilla and the cocoa and the almonds, I know they would make delicious cookies, Karen, so maybe you should add that to your list of cookies that you make next year. You know, I'd be all for that. So, all right, so I have got the light petal pink Stampin' Blends marker. And again, I know I will impress you with my fantastic coloring skills, but I'm just basically scratching the color on, not even fully coloring these, because what I wanted was just kind of a hint of color on them. I didn't necessarily want them to be really pretty and completely finished and, you know, all colored. Now I'm going to grab my dark petal pink Stampin' Blends, and I'm just going to make a couple little, almost like flicking motions over the top of the flowers. Oh, there's a little flower down here. At least I think that's a flower. I'm calling it one. Then I'm going to grab this is crumb cake, and it is light. The light crumb cake marker, I should say. It is not light, the light crumb cake marker. And again, I will impress you with my fantastical coloring skills. And I'm just kind of doing the same thing with this one. I'm not really spending a lot of time coloring every little bit of it in. I just kind of wanted the hint of color on it. So doing the same thing on all three of the little almond images here. And then we're almost done with the coloring portion anyway. Then I'm going to grab my light soft seafoam Stampin' Blends marker. And I'm just doing the same thing where I'm going to kind of just trace a little of the color down the center of the leaves. If you want it to be a little more finished looking on the colors and you want to spend a little more time coloring and you like the look of that, you can certainly do that. You can color these as much as you'd like with your markers. I just kind of wanted it to be a hint of color, so I didn't necessarily want to color everything in and spend a lot of time blending and whatever. I just wanted it to look like they were really lightly colored. So hopefully that's the look that I'm giving you here as I'm doing this. And I will say that, particularly on this paper, I did notice that the blends do seem to lighten up quite a bit, particularly when I was using the light blends on here. So when I initially put the color on, I'm like, ooh, that's a little darker than I thought. But then by the time the ink dried, it just gave it just a little hint of color, which is sort of what the look I was going for. So if you like that look, you can take your Stampin' Blends markers and do that. If you don't like that look, you can spend a little more time coloring it in. The other thing that you can do is, if you like using sponge daubers, you could take a sponge dauber and tap it over the flower centers and color in your little almonds as well as the leaves, and just use a sponge dauber for it rather than blend. So you can kind of do whatever you want with it. You could also use your regular Stampin' Write markers. So whatever you want to do, whatever your favorite way to color things is, you can do it on this paper. All right, let me get those markers out of the way, and I'm going to grab some of my chopped up. I cut my Stampin' Dimensionals in half, so again, I know that drives some people crazy and they don't like it. Oop, that one is hanging right off the edge, don't want that. If you like to use whole Stampin' Dimensionals, you are welcome to. If you are like me and like to, conserve on the very few things that I conserve on when I'm stamping, Stampin' Dimensionals. I don't know why I've chosen that to be my thing, but I have. I prefer the half dimensionals because I like the way they fit on a lot of things better. They fit on a lot of the backs of sentiments and kind of smaller die cuts and that sort of thing. So that's what I tend to do, is just chop mine in half. I use a whole one when I need to. So I wasn't going to bet this. No. Oh, you weren't going to get the set? Yeah, Carol. With the way you like to color, I can't even believe you weren't going to get this set. And I think you definitely need to. So definitely. So. All right, and then I'm going to take my little die cut here, and we're just going to kind of place it over the top of my other die cut, using the Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere it. And then ahead of time, I do some of the die cutting. Like I said, I did the little Garden Meadows die cut in the background, and I also cut from gold foil sheets 3 of the little sets of leaves, and the little sets of leaves are also in this die set. Again, these are the Lovely and Sweet dies that coordinate with the stamp set that I'm using today. So just cut 3 of those, and we're all set on that one. So I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals. Look at what I have done to my Stampin' Seal. I don't know if you can see it, but I threw the dimensional covers over there. Somehow I stuck them directly on my Stampin' Seal. Yikes. Anyway. Apparently I'm a little out of practice. I haven't done a video in like a whole week, and so I'm doing all sorts of stuff that's crazy. All right, so I'm going to take my mini glue dots because that is my preferred glue anytime that I'm sticking something like this together, because, yeah, liquid glue and I, we're not the best of friends. I usually make a big mess with it and have glue stuck to everything. So I find that when I use the little mini glue dots, I can kind of just put a little spot of glue on, enough to hold whatever it is that I am wanting to stick down, but then it doesn't end up oozing out everywhere and making a big mess. So I'm just tucking these around the die cut that I've already got here. So again, just putting it on the larger of the 2 leaves. I'm going to tuck this one up underneath here. And if, as you're tucking your little die cut leaves in and around your other die cuts, if you happen to bang into a Stampin' Dimensional somewhere in there that's in a spot where you didn't necessarily, you were trying to tuck in one of your little leaves, you can just snip off the stem on your leaves, and it's super easy to do. So glue, yeah, the glue eraser does help, but I do still make a mess. I don't know, and then I end up with everything stuck to everything, and my work is stuck to my desk, and anyway. So you like to cut your Stampin' Dimensionals in half too? Yeah. Cards for the VA hospital don't have anything that can be picked off, so yep, most definitely. So, all right. Next thing that I did was I tied a little bow from linen thread, and I'm kind of getting down to the end of this little spool of linen thread, so I'll have to grab another one here shortly. And I'm just doing the little rabbit ear kind of bow. So I make the 2 loops, and then I pull and try to get my bow tied sort of nicely. Just like that. And then the rabbit ear bows allows me to kind of pull the ends and make them the loops as long as I want them to be and all that sort of thing. So, all right, gonna take my paper snips and chop that off and get rid of those. And then I'm gonna grab another little glue dot here, and we're gonna stick the bow on to the card front. I'm just gonna take it and tuck my little glue dot right in there, which again, I know is gonna look kind of icky when you initially look at it like this, but it'll all be covered by the sentiment, so no worries. Nobody will know but you and I that we got the glob of glue under there. So, yep, you like to make, the borders definitely are a lot easier with the edges of the Stampin' Dimensionals, but I even cut those up too and I use them on my cards. So, all right, let me grab my little strip of paper that I'm going to stamp my sentiment on. This is just basic white cardstock, and it's a little piece that's left over that I trimmed off. I've got my There we go. Flatten it out. Embossing Buddy from the Embossing Editions kit. And then I've got, you know what, I better get this all out of the way before I start doing any embossing because I will have powder everywhere. Versamark ink, and my sentiment is here on my block, which is again from the Lovely and Sweet stamp set that'll be available on Thursday, so yay. Oh, you use a Teflon scissors? I just use paper snips, so I don't know. Those seem to work all right for me. So, all right, stamping it in Versamark ink, the sentiment, here on basic white cardstock. And then I'm going to grab my gold embossing powder, which is from the Metallics embossing powders. It's a 3-pack, so you get gold, silver, and copper when you purchase the embossing powders, the Metallics embossing powders. Sprinkle that with the gold, tap off anything extra, and then close this up before I start up my heat tool because I know that we'll be flying if I don't. So I'm going to pull over the heat tool now. The Stampin' Up! Heat tool has 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying, so if you're doing something like watercoloring, you want to speed up the process of drying a little bit, you can use the level 1 setting for that. And then there's a level 2 setting for heat embossing, so it gets a little bit hotter, but it does take just a second for it to heat up, so that's why I'm yakking and holding my heat tool here away from me so I'm not burning anything in the process. So let's switch it towards the sentiment here and see if we're ready to go as I blow Stampin' dimensional covers all over the place. There we go. It's starting to, as it starts to turn shiny and smooth, then you know that you're done heating. You don't want to overheat your embossing powder because you can burn it and it turns the icky brown color and looks sort of flat. So you definitely don't want that. So, oh yeah, that would make sense. So, does embossing powder ever get too old? It is not a silly question because I actually have a lot of people ask me that, Joan, and yes, it does. There comes a point where it just doesn't work very well anymore. It's like you try to emboss with it and it doesn't melt and it doesn't work. That's probably time for new embossing powder. It's several years that I've had some of mine, but after a couple years, you know, like 3 or 4 years, they do kind of start to get icky and they don't emboss very nicely anymore. So if you're finding that to be a problem, buy some new embossing powder, and I bet that it's probably going to fix it for you. The other thing with the embossing powders is make sure your Versamark is really inked up well. That's another thing for me that I find Versamark dries out really quickly, so I find that I'm re-inking mine a lot. So make sure your Versamark is really good and inky as well if you're having trouble with your embossing powders. So maybe start with re-inking Versamark, and if that doesn't work, then try a new set of embossing powders. So hopefully that helps. All right, so I'm going to grab my Wonderful Thoughts die here. This is from the Wonderful Thoughts dies, I should say. And I'm going to cut this out, so I'll be off screen for 1 second. All right. There we go. So I got my sentiment all die cut. And Robin said that she's got some embossing powder that's old, that's over 6 years old. And there may be some that last longer and, you know, maybe certain colors. But I do find, for me, the metallics, especially for whatever reason, I seem to have more trouble with those. Just after a while, they just don't work as well. So I just buy a new one and we're all set. I realized I put that on the wrong way. I wanted it to be on like that. So I've placed these kind of strangely on the back of here. Put one way over on the what will be the left side, one way over on the right side, and then one kind of angled down here at the bottom. And I'm trying to avoid having them stick right over the top of my die cut piece that I've already got on my card front. So that's why I put them in there kind of crazy. And I'm going to take the, make sure that I've got my linen thread out of the way and so that it doesn't get caught up underneath my die cut here. And then I'm just going to try to, she says. I was going to put it on a little bit higher, but I think I'm going to scooch it down just a hair here. Just making sure that I've got my glue dot covered, and there we go. I like that a little bit better. So there we go. Mostly got the card front done. I'm going to grab a couple more Stampin' Dimensionals. Hey, Daryl, thanks for hopping in. So a couple more Stampin' Dimensionals, and we're going to stick this on the card front. And so are you still off from school, Daryl, or are you guys back at school? I know my younger one went back today. The older one's got another couple days off of school, so I never know when other states start back again. So, oh, thanks, Joan. I appreciate that. Whoop. All right, so I'm going to take this and stick it on my petal pink card base. Again, just centering it roughly top to bottom, right and left. There we go. And then the last piece that I put on my card front is I did, again, die cut these ahead of time. Come on. Got all these little flowers and they aren't wanting to cooperate and come over here. Or maybe it's my fingers that aren't cooperating, one or the other. These are also cut with the dies from the Lovely and Sweet dies. So I just actually took these 2 dies and ran them each through the machine and ended up with 4. So I've got, I actually only need 3, but just die cut 4, so I figured I'd put them over here because sometimes those little ones get lost and go flying in all sorts of places when I turn on the heat tool and whatever. There's my petal pink ink. I've got my sponge dauber here in petal pink ink, Last Day of Freedom. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, lucky you. We'll have fun at school. Eek. So I've got petal pink ink on my sponge dauber, and I'm just going to kind of lightly tap it over the little flowers here. And I didn't mean, again, this is one of those that I didn't want them to have a ton of color, but I also didn't necessarily want them to be kind of that stark white against the background. So I thought they'd stand out a little bit more if they had a little bit of color on them. So again, I shouldn't say stand out a little, I thought they'd blend in a little more and look a little more natural with it, with a touch of color. So there we go. That's all I did, not very much. So gonna have to watch the replay. No problem. Yep, definitely can. We're almost done with the card front, so I'll be hopefully done with the card here in just a second. So, all right, glue dots. I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna roll up the glue dot. And again, they roll just like other icky, sticky things do. So we've had this discussion before about what they roll like, so I won't bring it up again. But, all right, so I'm gonna take one of the flowers and stick it on here. And then I'm going to grab another one of the flowers, roll up the glue dot, and stick it on the back as well. And kind of tuck it in, make sure that it's not hanging out the edges. That's the main thing, is just kind of rolling it on top of itself. And then I'm going to take that one and tuck it in down here. And then the last one, same thing, just going to take that glue dot and roll it up a little bit, stick it on the back, and roll it more if I need to make sure that it's not gooping out on the front, so that my card doesn't stick to my envelope. So there we go. Roll that up, and then we'll tuck the last little flower right in down there, and that is it for the card front. So super easy, just a couple little die cuts. Love that this paper actually has got all the designs in it, and you can just use your dies and cut it and add color or not, whatever you want to do to it. So that's it for the card front. The inside of the card is also pretty simple. I've got basic white cardstock and a little petal pink ink. And then I put the almond, almost called it cocoa, and I'm like, that's not cocoa. The almond image from the Lovely and Sweet stamp set. I'm just going to ink that up well with my petal pink ink. And then I'm going to try to make sure, because it's got the little words on here, I'm going to try to make sure that I don't stamp the words on the panel, because I just sort of want the edge of the flowers on there, and I don't want the words to look weird. Kind of stamped in the corner off center and whatever. So there we go. That's what I wanted, is just to hopefully you can see it on there. It's really light. I need to re-ink my ink pad, I think. But so just a little bit of petal pink ink down there in the corner. And then I'm going to go ahead and use some Stampin' Seal and stick this to the inside of the card base, and we're going to be all done. So, all right. There we go. All right, so that is it for my card today. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. Don't forget, get your last orders in for the current mini catalog that is ending tomorrow. And then really don't forget, celebration starts on Thursday, the 4th of June. 4th of January, and you can get all these new products starting on the 4th of January as well. So this suite is available in the new catalog. You can get your suite ordered and get your celebration items ordered and all the good things starting on Thursday. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, how celebration works, anything like that. If you have questions about joining, there's a really great starter kit promotion for new demonstrators that join during celebration. So if you have any questions about any of that, let me know. Again, details are on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com, and I'll be putting all the details for this card out there. I'll link up directly to the card post once everything goes live tomorrow morning, which will be Wednesday around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So until then, we will see y'all later. Let me know if you have questions about anything. Thanks again for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will plan to see you around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, and then again around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday. Chat with y'all soon.